Hello. So we are here today, me and Jeanette will describe what is she about and how she has come to partake in my videos and creations, messages. And I am Jenny Lee, the remote viewer of jennysite.net, and I'm here to give some information today. So Jeanette, explain yourself to these fine people.
Hello, my name is Jeanette. Jeanette C. I go by. I basically had started with having visions or sights of interdimensional beings, and I wanted to have more information on from Jenny in reference to my past or my future, and she enlightened me on how to get in touch with my inner self and be able to view certain things appropriately, being able to control that, and become a seer as well, a more controlled seer than I was more sporadically. And I'm enjoying my journey.
Well, that's great. Yes, all are, and we don't get sleep at times either. These ones are really doing the work even very much, and we just time just seems like it goes by so fast, and you don't have time to do anything. So I mean, I think it's been almost 3.5 I've been on YouTube, and I just had time. So I'm like, what did I do with that first page? So let's go into some of this information that I want to go over. The first thing I want to talk about, because I sat back for 2.5 years on the UFO community. I sat quietly and listened, and I observed, and I paid attention well, and I had all this information collecting in my mind, going to make a clear view on what I was seeing. And as it changes, you're seeing all these profiles and marked entertainers. And I think what we're involved in has nothing to do with entertaining people. And that's a value to what's going on in the world. And so looks like it reconnected. I don't know, we'll see. We're in a point of seeing everything for what it is. And that's the hard thing right now is, I'm not impressed to what I've been witnessing for two years now, I think. And you want to really trust in what they're showing, but then you look back and go, this isn't making sense at all. And that's the problem. But the thing is, a lot of these people weren't around 7 years ago. And this is where I talk about the shepherd's coattails. Everybody just grabbed onto those coattails and thought, well, this is a money machine situation. And so I'm just going to grab on. This is bigger than that. And those ones that are having a connection issue. But the good thing about this is I can cut this stuff out. So anyway, as this is developing, it's disappointing, because they seem like they're telling stories that are just really in the mind. And then they're sharing stories, and each person's sharing the same story, but there's never any verification with that information. That's what's disappointing. And it's building up to a situation where everything has to be completely the truth now. And that doesn't seem to bother that community. And so I think it's turned into a matrix with the UFO community, their own matrix, their own ideas, and it's just entertaining. But beyond the studio, it doesn't go beyond the studio. It doesn't go outside in their reality of their life. They're not out there every day looking for this stuff or anything. It just stops at that film or that shot they're making, And so, and I think it's disappointing in the way that people right now are so desperate in the true path, in the true information, and I don't blame them, but right now I think you're giving and donating a lot of money with the situation. You need to stop, because right now creators saying it's not about the money. It's not about the money anymore. It's about the information and making sure everybody's aboard of getting this done. Because if you're informed and if you are enlightened, you know that the money in the future, it doesn't matter. And so I'm amazed how they're not trying to get everybody online what needs to be done. It still goes down to what is in their pocket, and then getting their, I'd say, their gold bags filled up before they decide to disclose information, if they actually have it. So what do you think
And not
about that?
only that, but they're misleading people the wrong way, and a wrong path. And some people really don't have a grasp at what's going on. There's just too much misinformation,
Right,
and they really need good teachers to lead them down the without the idea of having to sell you something down the road.
right,
Um, it it's really about um, creativity, being able to foresee something past what you're seeing in front of you, and doing the right thing for humanity, being able to make sure that humanity gets through this, because I think if it doesn't, it's going to be not such a good thing for them and for their soul as well.
right. And I think as humans, and we've got into the nature of that, they'll never find out. They'll never know that I'm not on the right side of things. And that's not true, because I keep telling them, it's all going to be seen in the light for what it really is. What this was about, money, or was it actually about true information leading them to what they're supposed to be doing? And like I said, we're at that point that I'm like, what, look at it this way. So once everybody's funded, this is what's going to show you a true color. So once everybody's funded, just say everybody's funded, and everybody has their money, you're going to see a lot of these dropped off, because they don't have to do the work no more. They don't have to put the time and energy into it, because they never really cared. And to me, I have told you, and I told you, I don't really care about the money. I look at the energy as the most important thing to me. Energy is important. Knowledge of the energy, getting into that energy and that frequency, and getting to that next place with the souls that we are responsible helping get there. So I feel it's a great responsibility, but nobody's looking at it as that way, but and that's where we are in society. They don't feel they have to have responsibility, and I think they're going to be surprised that they do.
And I'm not sure if some of them are confused, or they think they're doing well and they're not, or others are deliberately derailing, I should say, the information based
Right.
on
Right.
today's
Well, I
scenario.
mean, the thing is, like I said, on the shepherd's coattails, as this started, and there, I mean, a lot of us have just been this way all our life, and we've always gone against the grain, and we've always seen the truth. It's day in, day out, every day, every moment. It's continually. And now we're at that point, because like I said, that's being noted. That's been seen for everything you've done that they put in your path. And I call these newbie 5-year people that saw the money train and just jumped on it for the money. I mean, that's going to be, it's seen. It's clearly seen. And it's going to die off just like everything else, because the trueness always wins at the end of the whole situation. The truth always shines through, and the lies always shine, but in a very bad way, in a very reality of the truth. So, so that's the thing what I'm seeing, and that's why I'm looking at the UFO community now. And there's only a couple, like Was it James Gilman? Gilliman, I think his name is. Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Okay. His
Mhm.
last name. And then I still on the track with Corey Good. Other than that, the rest of them can fly kite, in all that the way that they're looking at things and what they're getting from it. Because I've had many of them come towards me in the direction to get information because they are no longer getting them information. And I've asked that question several times. There's a reason. So now, pushing that aside, knowing that the matrix is just one big goob of stuff that just get mixed, let's push that aside. And now let's deal with the reality of what's going on. Oh, hey, I was just going for a drive.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. It's okay. That's part of it. So I want to talk about what I'm seeing coming and prediction wise, the new form of payment, and that's standing out of the curtain now, and you're seeing it, and people are like afraid of it. And I'm not afraid of it because they think they haven't been controlled in some way, but they have. They just are, it's not been told to them that in some way the banks have already been dabbing into your money and taking what they need. And now you have another system that I'm not afraid of that makes sure that banks have to do what they're told to do. And I see people are just afraid of it. Well, I'm not, because Big Brother has to watch to make sure the banks do not go and be dirty again and think that they can be dirty again. So in this process of this happening, I have no fear. This Fed now, is it Fed now? I think it is.
Fed now is what I heard.
Yeah. So I'm not afraid of it, in that way of things, but they have to babysit them to make sure there's no things being filtered or laundried again. And this is a system you cannot mess with in any way. So it has to reinstate there, because in the long run, what's going to happen, it's just you and the Fed now and yourself in the future, and the banks are not going to be there. There's no longer a need for them. And I think that showing the surface of that reality freaks people out, because it was never surfaced to the top again the way it is now. Because just like the Treasury Department and IRS and all that stuff, because we turned a blind eye to it, we didn't pay attention to it. So we didn't realize how bad, and it was just like a money laundering whole scheme of it. And we weren't paying attention. So if you look back in the details of the information, of course you're going to be shocked. But again, this is on the right track to get things aligned with the process, and making sure money is not being criminally spent. And first of all, and that's the way I see it on that process. So how do you feel about this, Jeanette?
I think people will still feel insecure about it, being that they don't know what's going to happen next. But at the other hand, what's been happening doesn't benefit humanity. It just leaves people poor and poor and destitute, and as we're seeing around the world, that's not really balanced.
Right.
Um,
So I think it's going to take some time for people to get used to, and it's building that trust up to seeing in things in phases. Once they see that their money's stable, once they see that they're not being charged these extra charges, it's like building a new relationship to know that this is a steady and a consistent process, because this is how you're going to get your big money. This is into that process. And so the bank can't come along and say, hey, we're going to take our portion and we're going to do this. We're going to charge these fees. No, you're not. So, and I think eventually how they're going to access it online and how you're able to see everything, I think there's going to be a process with that. So I'm not in fear in this process of this new project finally showing itself and how it's going to have to tap into your account to keep things balanced.
Okay.
So that new form of payment, I'm not in fear of in that process. What about you?
And the fear in payment, no, I'm not. I'm just concerned about complete control. And I know a lot of people feel that way, that they will control everything, and because of all the threats that people feel they're getting a little bit too much control of the money, and they would just lock you out and not leave you with anything by having everything electronic. But on the other hand, they've been doing that kind of thing today anyway.
Yeah. I think people are
We've already seen it.
Yeah, so unaware of how bad we were screwed over. But what they took advantage of the good nature of, I call it the human beings, the ones that did work, they diligently every day put their trust in the government and don't realize it was just it's like giving the money to the demons. That's all you were doing. But you in your heart was thinking you were doing a good thing. But this process, we know how bad it was and is. And so that has to be a steady, stable process to see consistency as that grows to a different type of trust, So, like I've always said, this system from the beginning on, it has its own conscience of understanding our identity, that is relaying information to us, and the money is going to that Pacific energy and that Pacific soul of us. So that's already in the works of identifying that. So they're going to attempt to try to steal, but going digital and not having a substance of paper money is going to change that too. So I think we're on the right track of that. So I want to kind of go in, and I don't know why I wrote it down and now I can't find a paper, but the firmament, because I'm going to do a download, and I talked to Jeanette about this morning, and because I've been talking about the blue stone that has oxidized, it has oxidized in the air in it, or whatever you want to call it, but it's a blue stone. I've been talking about this for 3 or 4 years, and this is connected to the firmament, and everybody's really confused about the firmament and the information when it resides with that. And I'm sure there's several people in this world have been close to that type of stone, and I think it does come from the firmament. And so I'm going to do a remote viewing to get information about it in layers of information, because no one really talks about what's in it, how's it work, how it was implemented with Creator, and why it's there, and why we can't go past it, and Elon Musk has figured that out pretty quick. And so I think this is a subject worth giving the details of it in a very form of downloads, or if I have to write something or draw something. I think it's about time to talk about the subject. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been something that you've been speaking about for a while. It's come up in other videos as well throughout. People really questioning what the firmament is. Is it there? Is it not there? It's just a lot of questions people have, and I think that we need some kind of clarification. And if not from Creator, from someone who is pretty close to understands that information.
Well, and the thing is, you're seeing everybody, there is no crystal in the middle of the earth. It's not a crystal that's running the show, and we're not in 5D yet. We're not in that process. I mean, everybody would wish that, but you have to do the work to get there. So the thing is, they've always showed me, and how I got onto the understanding of the flat earth, not completely flat, but I'll show you a picture in a second, but into half flat and half of a round substance, but at the bottom of it was always a tree. And they showed me
And
that
they showed me
in the way that they explained many years ago about um, the Fountain of Youth, that the Fountain of Youth is down there. Um, and they, in great details of the water, how it's formed, these coils of rocks, and everything that's down there. So some of these books portray this route down at the bottom, what it looks
that.
like. We have this book too. Me and Jeanette talk about this book all the time, and that's the Secrets of the Teachings of the Ages. And so there's no crystal in the center of it. There is a root of the tree that is always seeded to the other trees of this planet that have gone through the grounds. And then the bark for which it stands on the tree is a nutrient that comes off that is important for this planet too. They have explained that to me. So the thing is I wasn't looking for this information. It was just put in front of me, and then I followed through with documenting it and looking at that more and more. And so I think we're at a process that what this planet really looks like. And we've talked about how they showed me everything's kind of like a puzzle, and it turns, and islands shift up, and and planets shift down. So it makes me wonder, and I asked you this question, I think a couple of weeks ago, that I'm thinking, we think we're on top. What if we find out we're actually on the bottom? Have you thought about that? I think that's because it could have happened in the way energy changes on this planet and how we flip around a lot, and no one's telling you the truth.
It's
But
possible. But like Creator said, it's also possible that it's a dimensional
yes,
thing.
process.
We could be located at the bottom technically, but we don't know that
Right.
until everything really appears.
And that's why I think I want to hopefully draw everything in a layers that they show me, and what is from the top of the firmament all the way down to the very bottom. So it's explained a little more.
In layers.
Yes, in layers, so people can look at it and diagram it and compare it. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the stuff they expect me to draw sometimes, I don't even know what it is, but I just draw it and put it together, and then eventually I figure it out. But I mean, I think we're at a time that this needs to be explained. This needs to be talked about. And it's so funny how it makes people feel uncomfortable talking about flat Earth. Okay, flat Earth, but it's not all the way flat. On the bottom, it is a circle. And, the thing is, like this one, this is the way I see it. Like this is the flat Earth, and then all you see, you feel like you're in some globe. That's the way I feel. Because if we were out in the atmosphere of the stars, trust me, you would see more than what you're seeing. And I believe that there's a sun outside of it too. And that's the thing about it is, do I think some of the snow and the residue that we're getting that doesn't look like normal snow and stuff is falling from that? I do. Something's changing with it. And that's why I want to remote view this and look at this of what's going on with it. Because it's just like Antarctica. That's the Yellow Brick Road. That's Stairway to Heaven. That was always paradise on the other side. They just kept that secluded from us. So we didn't know that Mars and everything else was always on the side of us, in a distant land in that way. And so we're down to researching, not through Google, reading books, history books, that were before the 1950s. Would have been great. So what do you have to say about us going back and looking at that?
Um, Not sure. I'm really, I'm still learning myself. I think it's important to do that. Um, it'll be interesting to see what kind of information we get out of that by doing that remote viewing, because it will give you better answers as to which way Earth is going and its occupants,
Hmm.
and where would they end up, and how this whole thing might materialize in a way that is beneficial, hopefully.
Hmm. True. You know what? And I was looking at, remember when I did the picture of the creator, and I wasn't paying attention to everything, but on the back of his cloak, like I always say, they talk about the tale that is the story that is told. And on his cloak, too, it has the root of the tree. You remember? They showed me this. This is in the back of his
Oh,
coat.
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he showed me the root of this world is to a tree. And this was what, 2 years ago I did this, where I
That's
can't
right.
remember. And then how his energy goes up. This is his energy going up. And then it leads to the pyramid's energy, which leads to the stars. So, which is kind of what I'm searching for now is the answers to this whole collective of energy. And then the real sun. Well, look where the real sun is. It's out past the stars. It's not in the globe, you know. And then this sun then leads to they call it the golden energy, the golden ages. And that's where he's
Mhm.
leading us to. So I'm just saying, I mean, there's these little keys that you do it and then you go back and you realize like it was always at the root. This was always the root. This was always the bark. This was, you know, what created and began was a root. So it's just some of the things, when you put something together, like we're doing some codes that are connected to everything. Me and Jeanette are like, they're
Trying to figure it
involved.
out.
And nothing is simple. It's always in codes and it takes forever and you have to have patience. And like this one too, this is in Antarctica, and how these are going to start to come out of um, the ice and how the ice is going to melt, how these are self-sustaining crafts and everything. So, and how they showed that, but also how everything is connected. When I did the Ruby Lake, I was in like, this isn't going to work. I don't know about this one. And then we find out that the ruby streams and mountains are there. And then they go, Jen, remember the yellow brick road and remember the ruby slippers. You need that. And so all this is coming together in this big chess game that's finally you're starting to see the truth reveal. And it's always
And for those people who don't understand what the yellow brick road is, you might want to elaborate a little bit.
the yellow brick road. It has always led to paradise, for all the needs that you have desire for and to get there. But it's always been over the ice. They always tell you the truth in songs. And same as Stairway to Heaven. It is elaborating and telling about the person or the energy that is held back and waiting for us to get things together before that is all opened in that way. So it's been led to the same paradise, led to the same road. And they love how to put that information in front of us. And then act like we're not seeing it. And then it's just a matter of time before you analyze it or put it together or get a download. And they say, hey, look at this because this is what this is about. So, because there's always been somebody that's sacrificed and is waiting for us to get it together and lead us to the truth. That's the whole thing about this is our golden age is across the ice, and that's what needs to dissolve. So that's what's going to be, I think, a huge eye opening when those ice capsules are going to have to come down that are melting now.
I was watching a documentary this morning about Mexico and some of its underground cave system, where some of the water had risen so much at one point, and as the water went down, the Indians settled on top of the land, but unknowing to them, well, eventually they found out there was underground water cave. It's a water cave with clear water, fresh water. But if you dive down deep enough, it's salt water.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it was figured out that there was a flood, a huge flood, and it has to do with the ice ages, with Antarctica,
Right.
and that melted at that time, maybe 12,000 years ago or something like that, and that they're expecting that to happen again. So it was an interesting little extra on what's going on today.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The puzzle is if it flips and you see everything for its true self, you can't go by some of these history books and what they're telling you. Just like these pyramids, all these findings of these artifacts are surfacing to the top at this perfect time and day. And it leads up to what they've been poking the bear on me is the Holy Land. And they told me, and I don't know if you remember when Pence, they said, Jen, when he lays the first shovel into the ground of the new temple, everything will start. And it will build up to this issue of this final confrontation. And it's going to be in the Holy Land. So we are at a point that if you saw the Holy Land in layers, and what's underneath is layers of cities that are all connected, and the history is below that they've been hiding by putting other churches all in that one area. But the value, what they've always told me, and you can look at, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I said there's an energy beneath that is the real energy that everybody is sustaining and holding. But there's huge artifacts underneath there, and there are creatures. Some are very bad, but there are some that are good that have been sustained down there for a while. And it's almost like a puzzle that all those churches are connected to these small doors that lead to a reservoir too. They were just showing me all of this. Then they said, now, the next part of this that's going to happen is it's going to flood. Like everything else, it has to flood for everything to surface. So when that water runs and it rinses through, and I think I told you, when was it? It was a year ago, about one of the rivers over there that would turn red. I couldn't remember. I had to go back to the download.
Okay.
That
I can't
we,
remember which one it was. I know we talked about the river that dried, and that's already happened.
yeah, that's
But we did discuss something that would turn red. Yes.
yes. So the thing is we're at the flooding process. We're in the last area of the land. We're in the last process of this final battle in this, and it's not, everybody thinks it's a flesh battle, but it is a spiritual battle that's going to happen. It was always going to happen. So looking and hearing sounds in the sky, and you think it's just a sky above, there's layers of activity that are happening. And that is why light looks different in one area of the sky and it looks totally different in another. And everything that was above is here now on this plane. And it is here to witness. It is here to see things in this process that is happening. And so this was never going to be avoided. It was always going to come down to this very energy of this happening. And so you will start to see things in the Holy Land that have been contained of darkness that will bring light back in and open those up, the floodgates up, basically, for humanity to see. But the part of the rinse and the trueness is the water flowing through it. So it does have to happen. So they were showing me that that's part of it. And then beings from the mountains to see the views of what is happening and be a witness from the heavens to the earth. So I think that, I don't think it's something that anybody's going to blow off. I mean, once that we sustain and hold that information of that happening, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, so the thing is we're in those days. We're in this time of existence of this being revealed, and the Band-Aid is being torn off. So they've always showed me, which is a white dragon that has always been contained and controlled and confined. And they, in the trueness of history, something that was powerful of knowledge and something like that. They did, it's like everything else. Our government contained it, controlled it. And so things that we have seen that have come to the shores of our surfaces that are not supposed to be here are showing up on our beaches. And they can't explain them because, like the shepherd said, they will watch the water and watch what surfaces. And that's what's happening at this time and now. And so remote viewing, going back in there and looking at things in levels again and seeing the more detail of coming up, because it has to do with the end of all this transformation. Same as it does for Antarctica, of what's going on over there, and the firmament. Those are all going to be linked up in a big format of information, because we're at a process. If anybody right now is feeding the fear, I mean, they're just choosing that. They're choosing that that's what they want. And because you can clearly see this world has changed, and we are not in a 5D process. We're in 4, and 3D is just dissolved in front of you. You're just not allowing your conscience to see that. I mean, is that how, yourself, how do you see it?
Well, I've always been a little bit more ahead than the 3D, but yeah, I'm seeing it myself, but that could be me. Someone else can see it in a different way because maybe they're not at that level. Um, Everyone has a different perception. Um,
Right.
I'm
So,
seeing
but you're not
seeing it
afraid.
lighter. I'm seeing people a little bit more happier now, but not as afraid as it were. But a lot of things have to change so that we can move forward because there's still a lot of fear mongering going on.
And I think people think if you watch the movie that's going to come, they think that these people will see the truth. But some conscience don't want to perceive the truth. They want to live in their own reality. Just because it's there doesn't mean they're going to believe it, even though there is proof in front of them. They are choosing their reality. And if they choose not to be involved in it, staying in their house, telling you not to bring up the subject, not to not to talk about it. And this is the thing. We've been consuming products that are good that are not good for our body, and you have to accept you didn't have the knowledge of knowing, but the fact is that you trusted these corporations to give you true food, and they were not giving you that either. Like everything's been a lie since the existence that we've been here, and now we have to completely turn everything upside down and ask questions always, and not just trust what they are saying until we get to a balance that brings in that Sophia energy that is the trueness and that feminine energy of love and light that they're trying to banish the feminine energy on this earth. Um,
Oh, that's an
yeah,
obvious, especially what's going on lately.
yeah,
It's always been an attack on women, and then at some point, well, okay, we're going to help women get ahead, and now they're doing it again. What are they afraid of? And I'm just a little concerned. Um, it's almost like we're walking backwards. It's not
yeah,
conducive to what the future of humanity
right.
where it needs to be.
And I call it
And I
trans
call it trans.
programming because that's what
Mm,
they're doing. They're taking their own agenda and taking people that are confused and have not decided and say, hey, we'll help you decide. And now we're going to use that as our promotion, our plot to get what we want. And that's the
mhm,
thing, that they are not going to care about the wreckage that they leave behind. And that's going to take decades for us to help those beings get back to where they feel natural to be instead of something being forced upon them.
mhm. Correct.
So, a sad situation with that. I just think, because I've had friends that are been confused about themselves, and it's not a chocolate and a vanilla ice cream thing. I tell my kids, some people don't like chocolate, and some people don't like vanilla, and even though what you tell them that they need, that's not what they want. So I honestly believe that there should be a third category. I think that would make
I think
things
that would make sense.
easier.
Well, and that's what they want as well, but they just complicate things more often. It's like instead of just the third category, and just like for that unit or for that combination of people to unite in, they just divide. They're creating more division, and to
Right.
me, it's not conducive for them. It's creating chaos and hostility.
But that has to do with pushing an agenda that feeds the elite to dismantle and stop people procreating. That's the whole agenda with that.
Yep.
Stop breeding. We don't want you to breed no more. We don't want you to like the opposite of sex. We want you to understand that you can't have children. And they're going to try to annihilate that. They tried. It didn't work, but there is,
It's either that or they. I mean, uh, I just they definitely know what they're doing. I mean, there are other species out there who are two gendered, um, but that's their species.
right.
Right. This
There,
and
there are
talk about the
people don't talk about this. There are people that are literally born with two sexes. They don't talk about
yes.
this. You honestly, they don't talk about it. You know, and can you and those everybody's telling them make a choice. Make a choice. Even nature has brought you to this point that you're confused about what you are, and man comes in and says, make a choice. I mean, for me, if I was in that situation, I'd say, no, I'm not going to make a choice. I'm going to find my own category and be in that category because nature has already put this in perspective of what I am. Let me find my path. And that's the problem. They're not giving these kids the choice to find their path. They're forcing it and throwing it down their throats. And that is going to be some big
And in
repercussions.
some cases, yeah, they're forcing the parents, or the parents are not seeing um, the ramifications of the injuries that's going to affect them in the future, psychologically and physically as well. Because
Right.
some of them are already coming forth and realizing they made a big mistake
Right.
by
And
making that decision too early.
yeah, it's going to be like a Bud Light situation. It's just going to completely blow up in their face. And that's what's happened. Um, and that's just a force. When you force something that naturally people's mindset are not ready for, they're going to get very defensive and protect and then work together as a community to make sure that that does not is let's say is not forced upon them and not putting innocent ones in danger. So anyway, it's going to be interesting in the, let's say, 2 years to come with this process of dialing back and how they're going to do it. So I think, pretty much for today, we can say that we're going to go over this, and then I'll do the downloads, and we'll get the information about the firmament and what other financial stuff. I think the Holy Land this week, and stuff that is happening above us in the clouds, knowing that those are levels of energy that are reacting from things changing. And I think that's where people need to pay attention right now. I call it the shit wagon they have in Washington. Is that's what it is. It's just a shit wagon. And so it's something that's already going to come to an end anyway. So I don't see why.
I hope so. I'm ready for that to disintegrate really soon. I can't take it.
It's live. It's true. No, it's not. There's no possible way.
It's a monster.
Those are actors. But yeah, it'll be interesting. So when we get done with those remote viewings, I'll put those pictures up, and by then we'll be able to figure out how we can download them on this platform and get them through the process. So until the next time, I think we're done for the day.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. And you guys know how to contact me. You can get in contact with my website and information and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So you guys take care. Have a good day. Stay in the light.
Bye-bye now.